You're listening to CoBB, Conversations on the Business of Brands, with Sudeep Chawla and Sharavana Raghavan.
So Sharan, we are recording this episode at that time of the year, December end, where everybody makes their year-end resolutions. You must have also made some. So can I ask you to divulge some of them for our audience?
I might. For that, I need to get a few things off my chest. So even before you make resolutions for the coming year, I think you have to offload baggage that you're carrying from the current year. The whole point is that I don't bother you with my rants in the new year.
So you want to rant as much as you want today?
Maybe, but then most of my rants are about telling other people what not to do or what to do. So yeah, you could take it either way.
Okay. So therefore, if we have to dedicate our today's episode to it, what resolutions do you want others to follow? What do you want to get off your chest, Sharan?
Most of my peeves that I carry are about how terms are used very freely and almost misleadingly in brand and marketing conversations, and especially in the media. So there is a lot of marketing and brand thinking that is propagated by media with not necessarily a clear articulation of what these terms mean. And it would help all listeners and even people who are speaking about it to clarify the thought process and actually build better brands if they just use the terms right. So I have a list of terms that I want to talk about, saying why they shouldn't really be used. And you, for your part, can probably step in to say what they can use instead. So you can be the good cop as always.
Okay. So there is also a benign intent behind this one. You're wanting to make sure that all the new entrepreneurs or startup guys don't get misled by what these terms are popularly used for, and instead they focus on healthier, well-rounded terminologies, etc. Yeah.
Absolutely. In local parlance, it would be called the uncle episode, where we're telling the youth and the youngsters of marketing today to do things the old-fashioned way. There's a good habit behind all of it anyway.
Okay. Excellent. Then Sharvana uncle, why don't you start with your list?
My first one is D2C. D2C, direct to consumer, is largely a farce in India. What does D2C mean? If you're selling directly to the consumer with nobody in the middle, how many brands actually directly sell to the consumer? Very, very few do, and very small percentage of the business is sold directly to the consumer for most brands. Now, what it does not mean is that you are an online-only brand. It does not, because the best example of a D2C brand, or one of the few examples that I can think of in the D2C actual original D2C space, is Lenskart. They are vertically integrated on the manufacturing side and on the retail side. They sell online, they sell in physical stores, they sell in your home, because they are direct to you no matter which channel you choose. So it is not about having a website for your brand and the brand becoming a D2C brand. Not at all. And even most of the large D2C brands, or even the D2C success stories that are tom-tommed about, have at best, less than 15% of their business coming from their own website. They end up selling on e-com platforms, Amazon, Flipkart, Snapdeal, Nykaa, everywhere. And that's what makes up most of the brand. And that cannot become a D2C business model. And the other issue is that we've had different channels in trade always. We've had GT, which is serviced by the distributor, wholesaler, retailer model, where consumers picked up your product from the retailer or the wholesaler, which was followed by modern trade, which came in the early 2000s and continues to flourish even now, which is your supermarkets and the supermarket chains. Then you have e-commerce. And there were brands that did specifically well in general trades, brands that did specifically better in modern trade. But they were never called GT brands or modern trade brands. Here, why are brands being referred to by the channel they choose to sell? And with a lot of things changing about here in India, with the funding winter coming in and with people having to build scale now, a lot of the brands are stopping to use the term D2C. And they even say digital first, which really means nothing. Because why would you name your brand or christen your brand after a channel? Some even say it's more than a channel, but it's not. It is a channel to sell your brand.
So, Sharon, I think the D2C ethos is about owning the customer experience through and through. And you're very right. When a intermediary like an Amazon or a Flipkart or a Nykaa comes in the middle, it is they who own the customer experience. You might have a brand store there, which is almost like displaying your products, but the customer experience is completely owned by them. And hence, Lenskart possibly is the best example of owning the customer experience from the start till the end. Therefore, if I have to give a positive twist to your rant, we are not discouraging you to call yourself D2C. We are saying that if you really want to be D2C, then you should put in place measures to own the complete consumer experience from start till end. That is when you qualify to call yourself a D2C, and you will really, really then own your customer, their experience, their first party data, and their remarketing and everything associated, truly associated with D2C.
Right. And very few brands will even have the chance to be D2C in the current environment in India. So the whole reason for D2C came up largely in the West. I think started with the mattress brand. I don't recall what the brand is. They're the ones who said we're going direct to consumer first. And this was because of the pressures of retail. So when you distribute via Walmart in the US, Walmart takes a significant share of the margin, making it unviable. And Amazon is almost the Walmart in the cloud. And when Amazon margins today are sustainable for a lot of brands, over time it might not become sustainable. And selling online through another retailer becomes difficult. And that is why they wanted to go after the consumers directly. And that is how the system evolved. Here, our e-commerce has not hit the maturity stage to demand that higher margin from the manufacturers. That day will come. And that day we might end up having brands that need to go direct to consumers and behave more like Lenskart.
And suppose, Sharon, if I take you slightly out of the digital ecosystem, and suppose we talk about brand like Levi's. Now, Levi's will have certain amount of sale coming from its own stores, certain amount of sale coming from branded stores like Shoppers Stop or and similar stores, and then there is the third side, which is possibly slightly smaller, unbranded or local stores which stock Levi's. And hence, if what we are saying is if this Levi's sale from its own stores, own company owned stores, is roughly about 50, 60, 70% of its entire sale, then it qualifies to be a D2C brand.
Actually, yes. In fact, they qualify more than the clean beauty brand that has a website today.
Now, Sharon, you referred to this, that direct to consumer, and the reason I brought this up, that direct to consumer somehow brings this image of digital for everybody. And that is why I spoke about Levi's and everything else, because direct to consumer means direct to consumer. It doesn't matter what channel you are following. My question, therefore, is it better for themselves to call themselves as digital first brand or omni channel brand? What should be the way to go for them?
I wouldn't go for either because digital first means what? I had a website before I distributed. No. And omni-channel, see, if you don't want your brand in every possible channel, there's something seriously wrong with the brand strategy you're building, unless it's for very, very specific reasons, which very few brands have. When you have your brand, your whole point of go-to-market is to reach as many consumers as possible. Every brand is meant to be an omni-channel brand. And today, omni-channel is a term that is used as a scale-up for a D2C brand because that's all the scale you get in having a website and Amazon. So even that term is very misleading. And when people say digital, they say digital hygiene. I have a great website. the regular brands don't have that kind of a website. My website must be an experience. That's true of every channel. In GT, you have to make sure your product is visible from behind the counter. You have to influence the retailer. In modern trade, your merchandising, your planogram, where your product is placed, where your category is placed becomes very important. So every channel has its nuance. So like that, e-commerce, how you handle your web store on Amazon is important. How it's laid out, how the UX of the Amazon store is, how the UX of your website behaves, how you're engaging with customers online, on social media. All of that does play a role. That doesn't mean the brand should be named after this activity.
And therefore, what is your suggestion? What should people aim for?
That's the hard part, right? But I still have a recommendation. We accept that fact that no matter what we choose to define a marketing approach as omnichannel or not, the experience today is omnichannel. Consumers might choose the final decision point to be any channel of convenience for them. It could be at a DMart, it could be on Amazon, it could be on the brand's website. But the journey they take before and after that has to be omnichannel. So the experience of giving the consumer, the people, the various touch points that they go through, they could start digital, have an offline experience of the brand, touch and feel in a store, and then choose to buy it online again. So this journey that the consumer takes must be consistent no matter which avenue of engagement the consumer chooses for your brand. This consistency must be maintained, whether it's social media, whether it's your website or your store. Therefore, instead of calling yourself a D2C brand or an omni-channel brand, defining your marketing activities and your brand building activities as an omni-channel experience is what places you better to win in the omni-channel world.
Okay. I heard a great example of this, Sharon. A few days back, somebody spoke to me about Nika, and they said that when they went to a store, a shop, the salesman there, Nika salesman, asked them for their phone number. As soon as they gave their phone number, this guy immediately had the entire shopping experience, shopping preferences, last purchases, etc. of this customer via their CRM immediately. So everything that you did online is visible to this guy now. So his pitch changes.
Exactly. He knows if you're a high value customer or not.
Correct.
Just
And
with
he
the
would
phone number.
ask you. So for example, if you buy a certain kind of product repeatedly, he would ask you, is that product over? Can I give you another one of that? And then there are uptrade kind of a module that gets activated where the guy says that you already buy this. Why don't you try this? Let me put this on your hand or whatever, and then see if you like it. Yeah, it's a great example of omni-channel marketing. The experience is seamless, and you are getting what you are supposed to get in physical form, which is touch and feel, and you're getting what you were supposed to get in digital form. You're getting the range.
Exactly. Now that is making it for the Indian shopper omni-channel experience. That's brilliant. The brilliant example.
Okay, cool. What's the next one?
Next one is the favorite of unicorns.
That I think everybody should intuitively get without you even stating anything about it.
And this again doesn't mean anything today. Nothing. Because it's not even a one direction thing. Some of the businesses which were branded unicorns last year have actually taken a down round investment this year because investments were hard to come by. So they're no longer unicorns. So I think it's a stupid measure because it is about valuation. It's about how much you can convince the investor to believe your worth. There's very little logical reasoning there. It is a lot of intuition and preference and history benchmarking is at best that happens. But it really means nothing for the future of the business. On the other side, when Zoho recently said they did 1 billion turnover, that's got so much pride in it. And that is worth talking about. And even today, even in the traditional businesses, we define brands by the turnover they do, the revenue that they bring in, not by how much they're worth. No brand manager today will know the valuation of their brand. there really is no real science behind valuation. And it's very futile to be even talking about it unless you are the investor. And depends on how gullible or how arm twisty you are to get it. And the other funny term that I want to add along with unicorn is unicorn. Brands that are very soon going to become unicorns. I find that very, very hilarious term.
This one is funny. Okay, so on a slightly serious note, while unicorn valuation might get driven by the rate at which you are using you're adding consumers and perceived value that you can derive out of them, finally all of it would translate into some form of reality only when you have got your business model or your unit economies right. So as long as that is sorted, then you can celebrate unicorn or whatever, because if you got that unit economics right, you will become valuation unicorn first and then revenue unicorn soon after,
That's no guarantee.
if you've got your economics right.
Now, what is that economics? That's where clarity is lacking, right?
So now that you're saying that unicorn and valuation is possibly something that we should not hear too much of in next year, so therefore what do you suggest people to do? Should they define themselves by their profitability, or should they define themselves by their revenue?
Profitability is another animal, so I'm going to come to that a little later today. But revenue, yes. In fact, I dare entrepreneurs to talk about their revenue, and better still, their revenue targets and their growth rates in public, and use that on their LinkedIn header lines as much as they do about their valuation. Now, how many entrepreneurs are willing to do that? All those who declare themselves as unicorns, can they talk about the revenue numbers? Not profitability. I'm not talking about that yet.
I've heard this term, Sharon, especially in the context of Amazon and Flipkart, which is GMV, gross merchandise value. Would that come close to your revenue number?
Yes, that will be a revenue number for an Amazon. And basically, your gross merchandise value is basically the amount that Amazon is billed. So this month, whatever Amazon has sold from their website is their gross merchandise value. Simple as that. The billing price. Now, for your brand, yes, that could be a revenue target you could keep. Now, are you willing to talk about it in public? Because the moment you do so, the competitors know where you stand. And everybody you've been trying to tell about your valuation today understands the value of the brand. So even if you're buying sales, if that at least is a reflection of customers willing to put their money on your brand, that's a far better measure than an investor taking a punt for a next round exit.
No, that's fine. I think from an investor point of view, valuation might be a fair game. I think our advice is to founders and to startup entrepreneurs to aim for revenue rather than valuation.
And isn't that that's how brands have always been labeled, for their turnover
Yeah.
and not for their valuation?
The funny thing, Sharon, if I remember rightly, when we used to talk about how big a brand we handle, our brand values are always internal SAP values. So it was not even MRP, it was not even GMV. It was actually how much money are we making on the brand, not net, but gross money that we were making.
Yes. Next one is one of your favorites, one that we ran a whole episode about, which is millennials and Gen Zs. I have a feeling next year we'll come up with Gen Cs for COVID generation, because they were all passed out of college. So that's great. We've touched upon this, so I'll keep this short. Attitudinal segmentations work far better. This became top of mind for me because I was talking to an entrepreneur recently. I was urging this entrepreneur not to use the term millennial and to understand who they were actually going after, and telling them how sharp they should be. And the founder then pulled me aside and said, "Listen, I understand what you're saying, but only if I say millennials or Gen Zs, my investors will invest. So I want to say millennials and Gen Zs."
Okay, as long as it is only contained in the investor pitch and not your marketing documents, is fine.
I've had a lot of entrepreneurs who've said that I want a investor brand strategy and an actual brand strategy that I'll do. One, if the investor is even half as smart as you think he is, they can tell the difference. And two, you can never build a brand for an investor and expect the consumers to respond positively to it.
Did they mean articulation or strategy?
No, strategy itself, logically speaking, we'd say an investor would want the business to do well. There shouldn't be a conflict between the investor and the brand objectives. But investors come in different shapes and sizes. There are people who want an immediate exit, people who are looking to stay in for the long term. And when the conversation is all about becoming a unicorn and raising funds, entrepreneurs end up taking money from anybody who's willing to invest money in the business. And after they've taken the money is when these troubles begin. And these vanity statements end up being thrown about without too much heed to the impact these words can have. So my urge to a lot of the listeners, especially people who are starting out in the marketing and their advertising careers, is that don't fall for these generational traps people are talking about. Just segment your audience, be sharp on your audience about attitude and life stage. There's a whole episode, we're going to link it in the notes. So listen to that and say, avoid this. At best, if you want to use a demographic term, use age. The sharper the age band, the better. Some people say 6 to 60. That is wrong. If you want to say millennials, that who are talking about today, the millennials are hitting 40. They go from even 30 to 40. Gen Zs are 20 to 30 roughly right now. So 10 years is too big. Get it even sharper if you can. And we go beyond that. Look at the attitudes. Look at their life stages. What are they looking for? That's a better way for you to classify consumers than just calling them Gen Zs and millennials for pop culture term in marketing.
So therefore, use whatever term you want, but define them well. You might as well call them Gen Zs, but have a 6-line definition for sure, so that you are able to define them. What kind of people they are, what do they think, what is their attitude towards life, your brand, etc., etc.
I know you're trying to soften the blow, but I'd say don't use Gen Zs. Force yourself not to use it. And then you will see yourself being forced to use better terms than that.
You're listening to CoBB, Conversations on the Business of Brands. Your hosts are Sudeep Chawla, marketing practitioner, business leader, and educator to advertising and marketing professionals, and Sharavana Raghavan of Vitriol Innovations, consultants to consumer-facing brands and businesses. For more information, go to cobcast.net. If you find this podcast helpful, please help us by telling your friends and rating us.
Cool. So we spoke about D2C, we spoke about unicorn, we spoke about millennials, Gen Z, etc. What's next?
Take a wild guess what the next term is.
Is it another one where we have done an episode or not?
Yes, we have done an episode on this.
Okay, then this has to be purpose.
For this one, I'm not even going to give you the chance to put an alternate to it. I'm just saying, just stop talking about it. So I met a founder recently. I think I have to say it's a brilliant joke. I really hope she's not listening to it. And if the listeners know who I'm talking about, then please don't tell her. So she said she runs a relationship service and advisory for successful career women and entrepreneurs, as in women entrepreneurs. So my first reaction was, are you like the Seema auntie for the rich women? She said, no. She said, I do it to bring about a positive impact in the world. I was just blown off. I said, can you say that again? And she said, she is a relationship expert for successful career women and entrepreneurs who will bring about a positive impact on the world via their relationships. I'm like, it just didn't make any sense. Had she not said the last bit of the sentence, it was a pretty decent niche. I knew who I was. So what is the whole point of a pitch? Somebody who's talking to should know who they can refer you to. And I already had friends who I could refer her to just by what she said, relationship and dating and setting them up with people giving them the right match because they don't have the time to go out, build, to focus on the relationship at a certain stage in their lives. So I thought it made sense. And then she said to have a positive impact on the world. Like, how the hell is a dating service going to positively impact the world?
No, I think she took possibly her profession a little too seriously. Okay.
I'd say just stop talking about purpose and positive impact. Don't even use another word for it. It is all complete nonsense. Just talking about brand purpose right now, because I think it's got people to be narcissistic and feel-gooders with no doers, and a shortcut for marketers who can actually do the job better by not talking about it.
It's coming across as a salient strategy.
Exactly. That's again a problem. Brands today, in the garb of purpose, are behaving like B-grade celebs who are saying any publicity is good publicity, as recent as Vim. Whatever justification you can put for it, what is it achieved? It's given you trending for temporary trending for good and bad reasons. There are people who might think of it as good, but they are not going to go out and buy them. I also put Bonvita in this mix. It's giving you, yes, it will give you imagery, it might give you a sense of topic because people are talking about it. But what after that? It's just nonsense. I remember, I think they took it off air pretty soon. Unacademy had a 1 minute or 1.5 minute ad about an older brother trying to be a bully for his sister, and the father teaching this boy a lesson and says, teach them young. Like, what are you trying to do? People don't even know how what Unacademy is at that point. With the shots they did after that worked much better to communicate what Unacademy is about with the cricket commentators that they used. Then this, I'm glad they took it off air very soon, but I'm going to find it and link it just to make a point. Your brand purpose is left to NGOs. It is not for business. If you're running a business, it is to make money. So please make money. Stop talking about how good you're going to be in the world, because that says, buy me because I'm a good guy. That's what brand purpose ends up doing today. No, that's not why you should be bought. You should be bought because you are delivering customer value. And like it or not, in the larger picture, brands matter very less in consumers' life. So stop talking down to them. Treat them as equals. In fact, I thought the Bonvita one was almost condescending to parents.
No, well, I think the only place where I will say is when brands reach a certain stage where they've almost defined the category. And I therefore keep going back to Lifebuoy there. It is at that stage, while it has tried to extend itself to variety of usages, hand wash, etc., but it has reached that stage where it is a soap. It's just a bar of soap. But I think some of the work that they've done on the ground, I really love that work. Now they don't make an ad out of it. They put some films here and there. But and while Unilever has been panned by investors that you're trying to put purpose to everything, but I love the commitment that they've put to say that, okay, let's try and see and not just talk about it but do something, and making that positive difference in some parts of society is something that I really admire about them.
No, I agree with that. I don't think brands shouldn't do any good. I'm just saying that shouldn't become their marketing. That shouldn't become their brand building avenue to say, I'm a brand with a purpose. No, that is a good to have. Now, after you make money, whether you choose to do good with it is different from saying, buy me because I'm doing good. No, that cannot be. You've got to find a proposition. You've got to find your hook into the consumer's life on your credibility as a product and the service you're delivering to the consumer. Everything else is after that. That cannot be a substitute for your primary messaging.
Okay, what's the next one?
The next one, something that you already touched upon, which is profitability, which is the antithesis of burn rate. And I think this is a little bit on its way out, given the funding went to winter. But I have a feeling the moment investors start opening their purses, this might come back into conversation. And this again ties up with brand purpose, where profitability is put on the back burner. This is what you touched upon, saying unit economics. So starting a business and sacrificing profits, it's not on. You need to know where your money is going to come from, even if it's not coming in right now. The challenge I see is a lot of entrepreneurs I meet are dependent on investors' money, even in the short term. And sadly, some of them that I was in touch with about what they were doing have actually shut shop because they did not have the unit economics sorted. If you do not know how you're going to make money, then you have no right to be in business. I'm not saying you must make money right now. Yes, there is an investment gestation period. But if you do not know how you're going to make money, or if how you're going to make money is a very imaginary distance away, then you finished. You have no right to be in business. The next guy is going to put you out of business. And what these businesses also do is ruin the market for people who want to build a profitable venture. And they end up chasing top line without any idea of the bottom line.
Again, if you take examples like, for example, Facebook, for a very long period of time, Facebook did not have any money making revenue model. Yeah. So I think in that case, what they were doing, at least at that point in time, they were trying to make something useful which a lot of people would flock to. So I think somewhere the investors or whoever were backing them would have seen that once people flock to it, they will be able to create an ecosystem or some kind of targeting, etc., etc. And that possibly became one of the benchmarks to say, if you are able to attract sufficient a number of customers, people will find a way to make money.
I think this is with brands that are looking to build a certain habit
Hmm.
and therefore want to incentivize a certain behavior. But again, they are a minuscule minority. So this is what Peter Thiel says in his book, right? The 0 to 1. And that's become a very convenient example for people to say, because everybody wants to be the next Facebook, but very few are ever going to be. If you are among the very, very rare brands who are doing this, stop everything and give me a call. We need to be working together. But on a serious note, there's a very high chance you're not that business. And you need to know the difference. When you pull back a certain free service, will you make money? So I think a great example for this is Amazon Prime. First year was $500. You were stupid if you didn't sign up for it. Then it went to $999. Then it went to $1499. And you're not complaining about it because you've seen utility value. A company like Amazon can afford to do it. And that's a very rare example. There's another brand. I think they were also on Shark Tank. I'm not sure if they got an investment in Shark Tank India. I'm not sure if they got an investment. They call, I think I can name them because I'm a customer. They call Color Me Mad. They're a footwear company in Bombay. And they also have a sub-brand or subdivision called Your Foot Doctor. And they make shoes for flat-footed people, as in they make insoles for flat-footed people. And I have flat feet, so I reached out to them, and it is a great experience where they sent me a foam box. One of the founders came on a video call with me, telling me how I should measure my feet, how I should put my feet in the box to make an impression. They measured the depth of the arch in my feet, and they made an insole that would fit my foot perfectly. I liked that, but they sent me that box. They collected that box from me, and the cost of that insole, I think, was about $2,000 or $2,500. Now, this insole is something that I need not just for one footwear. a person roughly has about two or three pairs of footwear at least. Now you need 3 or 4 pairs of insoles. And if each of that is going to cost you $2,000, it's more expensive than the footwear itself. It's not viable. I got it once because I found somebody making customized footwear for flat-footed people. But I need it, but I'm still not buying it because it's $2,000. Why would I do it? Because they just do not have the unit economics sorted.
Or maybe you were the wrong customer. I can think of maybe say, some amount of chunk of customers who possibly buy significantly expensive footwear, but who are not able to enjoy it as much because they have flat foot, etc. So maybe for those pairs, they would possibly want to go with.
Maybe, but this also requires you to pull out the existing insole of the shoe and replace it with this insole. Now, I'm not sure how many people with those expensive shoes are willing to pull out the insole the shoe comes with. It got significant barriers there. But my point is actually on the price. Think if 2,000 is an acquisition, you don't incur as much labor as you do on the second insole versus the first. So could you have made it into a subscription model? Say every 6 months I ship you a new pair of insoles. Is there a lifetime for the insole that you're giving? So there are different ways they can work it out. But this was one brand. I'm not sure how well they're doing though, but I as a customer never bought another insole from them after that, after all the effort they put in acquiring me. So get your unit economics right. Make sure you know where your money is going to come from. And that is the only way you will ever be successful as a business.
Okay. Do we have another one coming?
Last one, which is ROAS.
Return on advertising spends. Yeah.
Yes. I think that's the bane of the digital marketing world.
Isn't that the way, people measure their marketing advertising? So what are we saying?
I know better than to mess with you on measures of advertising and marketing, but I'm saying that shouldn't be your only measure.
That I agree with.
High ROAS is always a flash in the pan. Always. So what does Facebook do or Meta do when you have great ROAS? Are they going to let you have your ROAS? No. First thing is they're going to go tell your competitors about you, saying how you got great ROAS. And they kick off a bidding war, and that's the only way they make money. That's the only way Google makes money, by creating a bidding war between you and your competitors. So your ROAS in the digital world is always a flash in the pan. Now, if there's a new category and a new player doing it, first 3 months you'll probably get brilliant results. But after that, your competitors are going to catch up with you, and you're going to keep firing one digital agency after another because they're not able to give you the same ROAS. But it's not even their fault. That's how the system is designed, to get you to keep spending more money. In today's time, if you're starting a business dependent on digital advertising, the only people guaranteed to make money are Facebook and Google. Nobody else. And for that, you need to be looking at something better than ROAS. Because ROAS is about you tracking acquisition, you're tracking sales all the time. That's your direct marketing. And like you said before, Sudeep, is about tracking your brand health scores. I keep going back to that episode about measure what you treasure. Treasure your brand salience, and start measuring it. I've met a person who said everybody wants a great following for their brand, but they're not willing to invest time and money behind building one. So how do you expect followers if you're not even building a brand? It is time consuming, and it's not immediately measurable like ROAS is. But like you said before, it is measurable. It just may not be as immediate as your ROAS, but it is measurable. And it's also an issue with marketers, right? And we get what we measure. And if ROAS is easily measurable, marketers also find great joy in just chasing that number. But you're never going to get it. You might get it temporarily. You might hit upon a keyword or a key metric that you can chase, but that will be gone very soon. If you can build your brand, build your Toma, build your spot, then you will build a brand. Instead of ROAS, can you find ways to leverage the digital media to build brand salience?
I possibly have two things to add to this. One is I can understand when brands are really gasping for funds, or when you're really starting, and that point in time when you don't have confidence over, when whether you will be able to construct a complete consumer funnel, etc., or not. One can possibly understand somebody really looking only at ROS, because you're then trying to sweat every single penny. And then you are actually at that point in time, you're not operating a brand, you're possibly operating a product. But once you start creating your brand, I don't think either of us would mind somebody measuring an ROAS, as long as you understand the route to ROAS. So ROS is a derivative. Derivative comes out of you creating salience, creating some kind of mind measures, and thereby resulting into consumer behavior, which gives you the ROAS. Yeah, as long as you're following the journey and measuring it, then measure whatever you treasure.
I think you've touched upon the same point from a different angle. That reminds me of another point, which says the stronger the brand you build, the better your ROAS is going to be anyway, no matter who is trying to bid over you. Then your consumer pool will make sure your ROAS is better. And brands that have not managed to build a brand or businesses that have not managed to build a strong enough brand for them earlier and are in a bit of a funding crunch are the ones left chasing ROAS. Had you built a brand, your ROAS would automatically be better. So even today, even in the funding winter, as much as there is sales pressure, the idea is about balancing the two so that when the tide turns, you're ready for takeoff. You're not just surviving right now. So therefore, ROAS, I'm not saying don't use the word, use brand salience and make ROAS a subset of your entire brand salience measure. And that's where it fits well.
Okay. And ROS can be read as ACOS, if you like, different terms used by different platforms for the same thing. So therefore, some of the terms that we picked up today are D2C, where we said that ideally the brand should go for omni-channel experience and not really worry about what channel are they really, first going through and second going through, etc. Then we spoke about unicorn and chasing valuation. So therefore, the simple invitation to everybody was chase revenues, and valuation would follow if that is something that floats your boat. Then we spoke about millennials, Gen Zs, etc. There, the simple invitation is to follow attitudinal segmentation, define your TG perfectly, rather than falling into some of these shortcuts of going for preconceived notions and into going into packages, age group packages. Then we spoke about brand purpose, and the advice simply was that too many brands are using brand purpose as a salience strategy that is doing disservice not just to the purpose but to your brand and your consumers as well. Since a brand is supposed to earn profit, that should be the primary objective. Once you've done that, you can use that money for whatever good you want to do. Every brand should try to do good, but that should not become your advertising strategy. Then we spoke about burn rate or profitability, which is where we touched upon unit economics. So getting your unit economics thought through from the very start is possibly a key to make sure that you are able to build a brand for the long run and survive the harder times that might come ahead. Then we spoke about ROAS or ACOS, which is about the fact that more often than not we find people chasing only this measure and therefore living and dying by it. The advice to all the brand owners at least is there is a specific route to achieving ROAS or ACOS. Focus on the route, measure each component of the route, and therefore you will find that once you are able to master that, you would have created a brand, and hence your ACOS or ROAS will go in a particular direction. You will be able to have exercise better control over it rather than being completely dependent on the medium which is giving you these measures. In conclusion, we should say that if you want to escape Sharon's wrath in 2024, these are the terms that you should stay away from and take Sharon's advice. Otherwise, you know who is going to haunt you from 31st December onwards.
Thank you, Sri. That's a great summary.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Sharon. That's a worthy advice. Hopefully, alongside resolutions, these are some of the things that our listeners would be able to shed during this year. And hopefully, all of them will see a brighter, more colorful, more cheerful, more profitable, and more sustainable 2023.
Yeah. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
Thank you for listening to CoBB, Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Sharavana Raghavan. Subscribe and learn more at cobcast.net. That's CoBBCAST.net.